All right. So, I'm going back into Malazan. I'm going to just restart my reread here. Now, I've done the first 10 books of, I've done the Book of the Fallen, the main 10. And so I have been through it, and I did do the first 4 in the reread a while ago, but I got sidetracked, and I thought, let me just go right through it again. I might skip the third one this time around, just because I so recently read it, but, and the fourth, but maybe I should just keep going with it. So anyway, if you are a veteran of Malazan, then welcome. If you were in my original read through and you've been waiting to see if I'd go back into Malazan, welcome again. If I've chased you away for some, stupid whatever, and you happen to be back here, welcome. And again, if you're new to Malazan, there's a number of things that are said about the series. Some of them true, and some of them I feel a little bit missing the mark. Just before we go into Gardens of the Moon here, I'll talk about just the prologue today, because there's just a lot going on with it. But if you are on the fence on whether you should read Malazan, here are some details that I would give to you that I maybe wish that I would have had. And some of these I did have, and it made my life a whole lot more successful. Or not my life. Geez. My time with Malazan more successful, I think. Now, a lot of people will say that Malazan is not a series that holds your hand. And that will come off a number of ways. And some people who hear Malazan fans say that feel that that is Malazan fans just being smug. Now, we who love Malazan also love a number of series. And when we mention holding your hand, it doesn't mean that we don't find deep meaning and things in all these different series that we love. But, there is a little bit of a throwing into the deep end sort of aspect of this series a number of times, where you may feel like you're floating and kicking, and you think, I'm reading this almost like a textbook. There's all these names and dates, just in the dramatis personae of the first book. There's a ton of people, and then the next book goes to a totally different continent. And by the end of the series, you have this database in your mind of hundreds of characters, and that seems daunting. Now, I don't think you have to be an ultra high IQ person to read this series. It probably helps, but if I can get through it, you can get through it. When I first went through this, I had my highlighter and my pen, because I was, I was marking everything. I'll show you how just one of my books, this is just the fourth book. You can't really tell very well, but it is, it's not a very good visual, but there are a lot of markings on there, and sometimes a bunch of highlights. And I was doing that because I was doing these recap videos, and so I was trying very hard to go through and recap everything. And that's a fool's errand in a lot of ways. I enjoyed it, and it made it so, at least for the first 5 books, I was reading a chapter, marking it. Before turning on the video, I would go through my notes, and then I would explain it, and then on video, and that's 3 times through, and sometimes even an extra take to see if I said anything super stupid. So sometimes I'd be going through these sections 4 times, and so it was really kind of sinking in as I was going through that way. And I don't think you need to do that. You don't need to. There are resources, though, that can help. There are a number of things that can help. One of the things is there are PDFs and things that you can go through. You know, when someone mentions a claw or a fist or some city or, you know, some random person, some of those PDFs can just kind of ground you. But the flip side of that is it can be a lot of info overload, and you don't necessarily know what information you should be keeping, you know, which information we should weigh the highest. And I was trying to juggle everything as if everything was the most important, and you just can't do that. And so the other thing, if you don't want to do a PDF where it really is detailed, and I'm not going to do a PDF, and I don't know if it would be for everyone anyway, but it is a good idea to find a group, you know, find some recap videos. I've done some on my channel of my first read through, but those are very, very detailed. I mean, some of them are very detailed. But the one, you know, as I'm going through this time, I'm hoping that as I go through these videos for this reread, that, you know, I'm going to be learning some things again because it's been a few years. And I hope that, you know, we won't target every bit of detail, but if you're new and you want to do this as a bit of a buddy read, or you're seeing this in the future and you're thinking of starting this, I hope that as I go through these for you, I can, and you come to these videos at these different checkpoints, that I can help you just kind of get anchored a little bit. Now, I'm not an expert on all this. Certainly the people who have viewed the channel know I'm not that, but I do have my perspectives, and anyone going through these books, you'll find if you go in the comment sections and things, there are people that have amazing perspectives and analysis and things. So just finding a community of Malazan folk, you can put up a question. Like down in the comments here, there are some Malazan sleuths and experts and things that would help you out. Another thing is I kind of shot myself in the foot by book 6. Every so often, starting around book 6, you know, if I was going to do some recycling or, you know, whatever, an errand, I started to do some audiobook for some of the chapters. And while that might work for others, for me, it diminished my retention in Malazan. You know, already audiobook isn't the most ideal format for me in terms of really sinking into the text. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of, you know, Steven Erikson is very intentional with his words, and often symbols and metaphors and things. There are lots of layers. And even if I would have had audiobook with the book in hand, I think when I usually do that, it still diminishes the experience for me because it's just not a retention at my own pace. And so I would just also say, if you're going to do this, it's worth going at whatever pace works. Don't look at the final page of the last book as this goal line. Really, you have to enjoy the journey. You're not going to just blast through 10 books and expect to, you know, get some surface level story. It's really a joy in the journey. And when we say it doesn't hold your hand, we're not saying that you're going to be lost forever. It's just that it's worth, you know, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And I think a lot of people would echo that very sentiment. That it's the same thing with a lot of books. I think a lot of books and series, you just get more out of it as you slow down and really explore the individual pages and things like that. And so, yeah, again, I would just say don't freak out if you start to think, oh boy, I don't know who this is, and I don't know who this is, and I don't know what they're necessarily talking about. Some of that is by design. You will even feel that in, when you start the second book, you'll feel that by somewhere in the fourth book, and then you might even be in the sixth book and feel that again. But you will be anchored enough to get the idea of the general sort of uh generally what's happening. And this is also, I should say, not really written very conventionally, in that this is very much a snippet in time. There are other books that are written in the same universe. There's a side series from this started as like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign with Steven Erikson and Ian C. Esselmont. And so Ian C. Esselmont also has a line of books of things that they played out or that are happening at the same time when this Malazan Book of the Fallen happened. And so this world and the way it's structured don't necessarily feel that just as you read these 10 books and you get to the end, that's, it's the end of everything bad, or it's this neatly tied up bow. There are amazing things that happen, but what I'm trying to say is that it's very open to tons of stories, and there are many stories, and they're still writing stories in this world. And my goal is to get through all of them, but I think the most important thing to start with is to have a good grasp on these 10 books by Steven Erikson in the Book of the Fallen. So, now that I've rambled for how long has that been? 12 minutes. Let's go into, I just read the prologue, which low key is an amazing, amazing prologue once you've read the 10 books in retrospect. Once you know where it goes, it's really amazing. So let me just talk through some of the stuff that I marked in the prologue. It's amazing, and hopefully I can help some people anchor themselves just a bit. So at the very start, you have these dates at the top of the page. He kind of cuts this out as the series goes on, where I don't even remember when he stops doing this, but it seems like he just kind of dismisses trying to keep track of the dates specifically. The most important thing that you should get out of this first part is, 1154th year of burn sleep. That's just gibberish to us at this point. And 96th year of the Malazan Empire. So there is this empire that's spreading. There is an emperor, and there's like this changeover that's happening in this prologue. And this is the last year of Emperor Kellenved's reign. And so really the most important thing to get out of these dates is this is like a 7 years before prologue. Okay. So we are in Malaz City, which isn't, this is the former center of the Malazan Empire. And this is not where the majority of this isn't where the majority of the book takes place. Most of it is on Genebacus, on this other continent. But this is important because we have Malaz City, we have the Mouse Quarter, we have these different, we have this boy who's going to be a central part of our book. His name is Ganos, and he's looking down at the Mouse Quarter Where's he looking up? I don't even know. It doesn't matter. And it's on fire. There's this operation going on where all of, it's like this culling that's happening. They're going in, and it's quite literally a witch hunt for these wax witches. And Ganos is looking down at this happening, and he mentions that where this used to be, Moxhold used to be the capital of the empire. Now it is a fortress for a fist. And a fist is just like like a general in the Malazan army. And so there are all these riots happening, and a man shows up. They're two specific men, and they are part of this bridge burner crew. And you'll get to know all about the bridge burners, and it's awesome. And this first man, I don't know if I should give away. I do want to be able to just talk freely, though, but I'm going to try not to talk about things in the future. But this is Whiskey Jack. If you go into the Dramatis Personae, he should be, he's right at the top of the bridge burners. Everyone loves Whiskey Jack. And he is one of the Emperor's elite, the bridge burners are the Emperor's elite, or one of the Emperor's elite kind of groups and squads, or whatever, squadrons. I'm bad at the terminology. And so he's there, and Ganos just idolizes these bridge burners, and he asks this man, is it true that the first sword of the Emperor Decim Ultor has died? And he mentions that they're still looking for the body. And something that's happened at this time is a lot of people have disappeared, including the Emperor. We don't necessarily know where he is. He's missing. There are other people missing. And there's this burning happening in the Mouse Quarter, where they're burning they're destroying these sorcerers, or these witches. We have this cadre of sorcerers going down and doing that, and it seems like they don't like doing that at all, and it's just awful. And while the Emperor's away, this woman comes up, and she is going to, by the time we get to the start of chapter 1, she's going to be the Empress. Now that the Emperor is away, she's basically taken the throne. She's Napan. I don't know if I pronounced that right. She has blue skin, and she has this claw, not like a claw, but I'm trying to give some of this terminology that's coming earlier on. The claw that she has is like this, how would you say, like a Secret Service, highly specialized assassins that go around. And, she's changed her name to Lacine, which means throne master. So it seems like there's this overthrow sort of thing taking place, and she's going to take on that, she's going to be the Empress. So interesting thing that Ganos says to Whiskey Jack. He says, they're looking for the body of Decim Ultor. Ganos shrugs. It's said that about this first sword, it said he betrayed a god. Now, we will get into that, and it's a lot to wrap your mind around that, but we have ways that people can ascend in this by doing, deeds or being chosen by someone who's ascended onto like a certain throne. We have these different realms. And if you ascend, it's like you have this deified sort of status. And anyway, it's different than like a godlike, Christian god, like creator of every. It's they use the god, they use that term loosely, and they are more vulnerable than, it's more like a Greek pantheon sort of thing, where there's a little more interaction, and people can ascend and lose their status and whatever. So that would be a lot to go into. So don't think too much about that. It's just throwing a lot at us at the start here. We have Dujek that's mentioned. He is one of these fists for, for the Malazan army. And now that we have Lacine uh, going in, you just these fists and commanders and things must not know exactly what's going to happen even with them. So we have these claws. We have, let's see, Whiskey Jack is there, and we have this other bridge burner with a fiddle, a scorched fiddle on his back, and he is awesome. His name is Fiddler, and he's one of the great characters in the whole series. Maybe actually, in retrospect, probably the greatest, probably my favorite. Now that we're removed this far away and I'm looking back, I love that guy. So, Whiskey Jack is calling out Lacine's laws, where there is a prohibition on sorcery, and that the emperor, when he returns, won't stand for that. But will he return or not? Is the question. Is he dead? Has he been, have they been disappeared? Have they drowned? Have they ascended? Have they blown up? What the heck is going on? So, one day I'll be a soldier, Gano says, only if you fail all else, son. Taking up the sword is the last act of desperate men. And this is Ganos talking with Fiddler. Mark my words and find yourself a more worthy dream. You're not like the other soldiers I've talked to, Ganos scowled. You sound more like my father. But I'm not your father, the man growled. The world, Ganos said, doesn't need another wine merchant. And this kind of shuts up Fiddler. He doesn't really have a reply to it. And they look down as the slaughterhouse is burning, and very, very cool if you know some of the, the epilogue and things in the final book. It has a pretty cool echo to this sort of thing. And it's interesting how things will kind of come around at different times. You'll see things kind of tied up in a bow. Not so much that there's like a plot specific thing, but it's interesting to see similar conversations being made at the end of the book as there were at the end of the series as there were at the front. So very cool. That's where we're at in the prologue. And if you want to come along with me, let me know and we'll talk. I'm going to try to do, this is broken up into, I think, 6 sub books. Let me take a look. So I don't want to rip through this necessarily. Okay, the first book 1 is called Pale, and that will take us from page 9 to 158. So I think I'll try to do that this week, and then I'll have another video. We'll talk about it, and welcome back, especially for people who like these videos, and we'll get in the rhythm again. We'll get in some kind of rhythm. I don't know exactly how long these videos will be or how frequent, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited because this is one of the great series ever, I think. So, talk to you later.